So with the state of social media being what it is and the history of it getting to the point of where it is, I can only imagine that it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And that's why I'm sure we've all had kind of the same thought process along the way of, I should just start up my own social media or host my own social media platform for my friends and family so we don't have to see the nonsense that's out there. That's where HumHub comes in, and that is what we're looking at here on this screen. This is actually being hosted on Linode. I want to give a big shout out to Linode for sponsoring this video. Definitely check them out. There will be a link in the description where you can head over to their website and get $100 in free credit to check them out for 60 days. So, like I said, in this video, I'm going to show you how to get your own social media platform called HumHub set up on Linode using Docker. We're going to make sure that we've got a domain name and an SSL and all that kind of good stuff so that it's the most easily accessible for all your friends and family who may want to join your social media platform. So let's jump into getting this done. Okay, so here we are on the Linode dashboard. It's very, very empty right now. There is one thing in here that I'm kind of using for other videos, but we're going to go ahead and get a Linode set up for our purposes here. Go up to the top right and click on Create Linode. We're going to go over here to Marketplace, and what we'll do is we'll come over here and find Docker. We love to use Docker and containerize everything we possibly can. So we're going to go ahead and select that, and then we're going to scroll down. We're going to minimize the advanced options there. You can select whichever image you'd like to use. I'm going to use Debian 11 here. I'm going to select a region nearest me. So for me, that'll be Dallas, Texas. And then right here, this is kind of where you can pick and choose how you want to set this up. If you're only planning on having a few people on here, then you could probably go over here to the shared CPU option and go with maybe like the 2 gig option. So that's what we're going to do here. Of course, you can change this, upgrade this, whatever later on the road, or later down the road, rather, if your needs become more than just this setup here. So we're just going to go with this for a basic setup. Of course, adjust this as you see fit for your setup. So next, we're going to scroll down. I'm going to change this label to HumHub, like so. I'm not going to add any tags. That's fine. I'm going to give it a root password. You could, of course, also add an SSH key to this if you wanted to do that. I'm not going to, but you absolutely could. I'm not going to attach this to a VLAN. I am, however, going to add backups. You always want backups of your stuff like this, especially if this is going to be a service that lots of people are going to use. You want to make sure that all your data is backed up and easily recoverable if something should go wrong. So we're going to add that for a couple bucks a month. You can add a private IP to this if you want, and then we're going to click on Create Linode. So while this is provisioning, it'll take a couple of minutes to do that. Once it's done, what we'll do is we'll head over to the domains area and make sure that we have a domain set up for our Linode. Okay, so we are up and running. Now we've got our IP address and our SSH access and all of that kind of stuff. The thing is, it is still kind of running some stuff in the background, getting everything set up, even though it says it's running. There's still more stuff going on the system. So right now is a great time to go set up our domain. So here we are on my domain registrar. I like to use Porkbun to buy my domains, but you can choose wherever you'd like to buy your domains. The first thing or the next thing you want to do once you got your domain purchased is actually come in to where you can adjust your name servers and change your name servers to ns1.linode.com and ns2.linode.com all the way up to ns5.linode.com. And once you've got that done, now you can head back over to Linode and set up your domain there. So what we'll do is now we're back here on our Linode domains area. We're going to click on Create Domain. We're going to paste in or type in our domain name there and add an email address. And then we're going to actually insert default records from one of my Linodes. So we're going to then select our HumHub Linode in this case and click on Create Domain. Now, the thing to keep in mind with changing DNS on your domain registrar is that it can, in some cases, it's gotten better, but it still can, in some cases, take 24 to 48 hours for the DNS to propagate across the internet so that you can actually use your domain when you want to. So make sure that you've given your domain time to do its thing once you change those DNS records on your registrar. So once we've got all of this set up and ready to go, we can see that this all looks good here. So what we want to do next is actually come over here to our Linodes. We're going to open up our Docker HumHub or whatever you named your Linode here. And what we want to do is actually copy over here what says SSH root at. And then we're going to open our favorite terminal emulator here. So here I've got PowerShell up and running. I'm going to go ahead and just minimize that. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so it's easier for you guys to see. And then I'm going to do that and press enter. And then here, yep, I'm connecting to this brand new server for the first time. Are you sure you want to? Yep, I sure am. So I'm going to say yes and hit enter. Enter my password, press enter, and there we go. I'm going to go ahead and just clear my screen with Control L. Now, because of the way I like to store my Docker containers on Linode, we're going to create some folders just so we have them set up and ready to go. So what I'm going to do is actually do a cd /home, and then I'll do mkdir Docker, and then I will do the same thing, but I'm going to do a cd into Docker. And I'll do mkdir HumHub, and then cd into HumHub. And then we're going to make 3 directories here. We're going to do mkdir config and mkdir uploads and mkdir modules. And if we do an ls, here we can see we've got config, modules, and uploads. The next thing that we want to do is actually go into uploads, like so, and do an mkdir for profile, underscore image, and press enter. Now, the reason I've done that is because during the installation process, we're going to run into an error message that we're probably going to need to fix, and this just kind of helps alleviate some of that later on. So now that I'm back in my Docker folder, what I want to do is actually do a nano docker compose.yml. And then I've got a big Docker compose file that we're going to go and paste in here. And then we're going to talk about this just so that we kind of understand what's going on here. Scroll all the way up. We're actually going to deploy multiple containers in here for both the HumHub application and database, as well as Nginx Proxy Manager, so that we can install SSLs. And we're also going to do, we're going to install Portainer, just so that we can kind of take a look at some different things for setting up Nginx Proxy Manager later on. We've got a version 3 Docker Compose here. We've got, below that, we've declared a network that we've called Nginx Proxy Manager. We could call that basically whatever we want to call it, but I'm just going to call it Nginx Proxy Manager. Below that are services. We've got multiple services in here, like we talked about. So we're going to start with Nginx Proxy Manager. We're also going to do Portainer Community Edition. We're also going to do HumHub and Maria Database for those two to work together for our social media platform. So we've got our Nginx Proxy Manager. We're going to use the JC21/Nginx Proxy Manager latest. We've got that latest tag on there, so we make sure that we've got the most up-to-date Docker or Nginx Proxy Manager Docker container available. We've got restart unless stopped. You can either use that or always. That's an option as well. We've given this a container name of Nginx Proxy Manager. We're going to use ports 80, 81, and 443. Basically, 80 and 443 will actually be where your traffic will be navigated through, depending on whether or not you're using an SSL or not. And then port 81 will be for the Nginx Proxy Manager dashboard. If you wanted to, you could absolutely change 81, but just make sure you change it on the left side of the colon. Don't change the right side of the colon, really, on any of these containers. Below that, we've got some volumes here. Basically, like I said earlier, home/docker/whatever our container name is, in this case, Nginx Proxy Manager. And then I've got a folder for data, as well as a folder for Let's Encrypt, because we will be using Let's Encrypt SSLs for this setup. And then below that, we're going to attach this to the Nginx Proxy Manager network that we created up at the top. Below that, we've got Portainer CE. Again, we've got ports 9000 and 8000. You can change port 9000 if you'd like to. Again, just change the left side over here. Don't change the right side. Container name of Portainer, restart always, volumes. We're going to, this first volume is going to connect to the Docker socket so that the Portainer can see all of the different containers on your Docker setup. And then we've got a Portainer data volume here for it to store its own information. Below that, again, we've got, we're going to use Portainer's Community Edition, latest version. And again, we're going to attach that to the Nginx Proxy Manager network. We're going to see some trends as we're going through this. But next, we've got a database. We're going to use, let's scroll down a little bit further, like so. So now we've got our Maria database version 10.2. The container name will be HumHubDB. Of course, you can change that. That's just what I wanted to name it. We've got some environmental variables of MySQL root password. Please change that. Please don't leave that as root. Make that a long, complicated string of characters. The database will be HumHub. The user will be HumHub. The password, again, change that for security reasons. Our volume will be HumHub DB. That was me doing testing. So we've got that volume. We don't actually need access to that most of the time. So we're just going to stick that in a Docker volume. And then our network, again, we're going to attach that to the Nginx Proxy Manager network. We're going to scroll down a little bit further here. We're going to talk about some of this. So our next service will be HumHub. We're going to use the mreadman HumHub latest. Our container name will be HumHub. We're going to link the database to this container. That's what that is for. We're going to put this on port 8080. You can put this on whatever port you'd like, but because of what we're doing, 8080 is just fine here. We've got volumes. We've got home/docker/humhub/config, as well as uploads and modules. We created all of those folders, mostly because of the uploads subfolder that we need called profile_image. And then we've got our user and database, our user and password for our database. Again, if you change these in the database, change them here so that they match. Otherwise, the container for the application and the database won't be able to communicate. So make sure they match. Again, we're going to attach this to the Nginx Proxy Manager network. And then we've got a couple of volumes for the HumHub database, as well as Portainer data. That's all of the services that we're going to spin up basically all at once here. So what we're going to do is press Control O and Enter and Control X. And then we're going to say Docker compose up -D. Basically, we're saying bring up the Docker Compose and run it detached from the terminal. If we don't run it detached from the terminal, once we close this terminal, all of the services will shut down. So we always want to run this detached in this case. It's fine if you're just doing testing to not run it detached, but for an actual setup like this, run it detached. You'll thank yourself later on. So once we've got that, we can press Enter. Hopefully, we don't get any errors. That all looks good. It liked our Docker Compose. So now it's going to go through the process of downloading, extracting, and building all of the stuff we need for our setup here. So once this is done and everything has deployed, we'll come back and take a further look. Okay, so we've got all of our containers up and running. We can see that all of those are done. So what we can do next is come back over here to our browser window. Let's grab that IP address like that, paste that in, and go to port 81. So there is our Nginx Proxy Manager dashboard. So what we'll do next is actually log in. It's going to be admin@example.com, and then the password is change me. And of course, we're going to log in, and it wants us to change this information here. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. And we'll click save. And then it also wants a new password, and we'll click save. All right, there we go. So the next thing we want to do is actually log into Portainer so that we can grab the container IP address for our HumHub applications. So what we'll do, we're going to grab this same IP address, paste that in there, change that to port 9000. We're going to create a user account here. Please don't use admin. Please change that to something else. So I'm going to change that. And then we're going to go ahead and click on create user. We're going to click on get started. We're going to open there. We're going to go to our containers. And here we can see everything is running. That is excellent. That's exactly what we wanted to see here. So what we're specifically looking for is our HumHub application or our container here. We're not necessarily worried about the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this 172.18.05 IP address. If we don't do that, if we try to just use the Linode IP address, this won't work. I have played with this quite a bit, and putting everything on the same network and then using the IP address inside that network is the better solution. It's the only way I've been able to get this to work. So that's why we're setting it up this way. So what we'll do next is we're going to copy that. We're going to come back over to here. We're going to go to SSL certificates first. We're going to add a certificate, and let's encrypt. And we're going to put in our domain name. If you don't remember, so in my case, it was tutorialserver.xyz, like so, and we'll press enter. And then we're going to click on test server reachability. Awesome, your server is reachable and creating certificates should be possible. So we'll click close. We're going to say I agree. Of course, read that, make sure you actually agree. Click save. Like it says, this may take a few minutes, so we'll just hang out and let that do its thing. Okay, so now we have our SSL certificate, so we can go back over here to hosts. We're going to add a proxy host. We're going to add a proxy host, and we're going to type in our domain name again and press enter. HTTP for the scheme is just fine. We're going to put in our IP address for that Docker container that we saw over in Portainer. And port 80 is actually what we're going to use here. Now, I know that we put it on port 8080 and then :80. That port 8080 is if we were going to access this from the Linode IP address. But because we're accessing it from the container's IP address, we can actually just use port 80. So we're going to go ahead and click on all of these options here. We're going to go to SSL. We're going to select the SSL that we already created and select all of the options here and click Save. So now that all of that is set up and ready to go, what we're going to do is click on Tutorial Server right here. And if everything went correctly, we should get to our dashboard. So we'll click that, and we'll just kind of hang out for a minute here and see what happens. This is taking a little while, which I find interesting. Let's see here. Oh, see, unable to connect to HumHub. Okay, that's weird. Let's try this in a different browser. Sometimes DNS, sometimes caching. Things just go weird sometimes. I've actually had issues with this domain name in the past on here. So I'm going to bring this up to here, and I'm going to press go. Okay, so DNS caching, something weird going on there. Whatever, fine. We're going to click next. Okay, everything there looks good. So we'll click next. Our host name in this case will be DB. Our port will be just leave the port empty. And then our username and password and database, we're going to go ahead and put all of that information in. Of course, base that on what you set your information to, not what I've got here. We're going to go ahead and just say create the database if it hasn't been created yet and click next. We'll give this just a moment to do its thing here. Okay, so we're going to say Linode demo HumHub and click next. I'm going to use this for my community and click next. Of course, you can select any of those options that you'd like to and click next. You can select any of the options here, whether it's external users can register, newly registered users have to be activated first by an admin, allow access for non-registered users. So do you want this to be public, or do you want people to have to log in to see things? I think I like that option better. Registered members can invite new members by email. That's fine. And allow friendships between members. Sure, why not? Click next. Of course, you can adjust any of these, again, for widgets, mail, polls, birthdays, things like that. So it's going to go ahead and download and install the modules for that. And now we'll create a username or just an admin account. Okay, so now I'm going to click on Create Admin Account. I'm going to say Don't Save. I'm going to go ahead and let it set up sample content. And then we'll sign in. So here is this. We're going to go ahead and click on Sign In, Sign Up. I'm going to enter my email address and password and click sign in and then don't save. And there we are. We're all set up. We've got HumHub installed on Linode using Docker and Portainer and Nginx Proxy Manager and Let's Encrypt. So we've got our SSLs, we've got our security for that kind of thing. Of course, if you wanted to, you could add additional security features to this with Linode firewalls and things like that, but that's kind of outside the scope of this video. Now, before we go any further here, there's one thing I do want to touch on with regards to this setup, and that is if we come up here to the top right and click on System Administration, go to Administration, and then come down here to Settings on the left side, and then go to, yeah, there we go. We're gonna go to Advanced, go to Email, and then, so we've got some stuff in here with regards to email for sending email to people for setting up new accounts, confirming their accounts, lost passwords, things like that. By default, this is set up to be a PHP mail transport type. You'll probably want to use SMTP for that. Be sure to fill out all of these SMTP options, but also, with regards to that, you will want to open up a ticket with Linode for them to enable the SMTP ports on your Linode setup. They do have those closed by default for security reasons and spam reasons and things like that. So if you want to do this, make sure you open a ticket with Linode to open those ports for your Linode setup. So guys, that is how to set up your own self-hosted, semi-self-hosted social media over on Linode. I want to give a big shout out to them for sponsoring this video. Definitely check out the description down below where you can get $100 in free credit over on Linode to check them out for 60 days, no obligations, anything like that. So definitely check that out. All of the information you'll need for this will be linked in the description below for the Docker Compose we used for this setup. So hopefully you found the video helpful. If you did, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up. Really would appreciate that. And all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me today, and I will talk to you in the next video.